Hey everyone, this is Mr. Everything, and today I wanted to finally get around to doing a 1-year review of T-Mobile 5G home internet, or as I like to call it, T-Mobile 3G home internet. I think that's closer to the experience that I've had. In the previous videos, and I've done a whole playlist of different things over different issues, different topics over the past year. And a lot of times I focus on the T-Mobile website, what they say about the service. Well, for this video, I'm kind of just going to talk strictly from my point of view, from what I view the network and the experience as, because it's a lot different than what T-Mobile actually states, at least for me. So the first thing I'll do, before I move my gateway or anything, where it's at now, I think it gets a really good connection. So as you can see here, it's set at very good. I get 4 out of 5 bars. And let me go here. And again, I'm on B2. And then for 5G, I'm always on N41. And it rarely deviates from this. At first, it did a little bit. But just, now that I've experienced it for a year now, I know it almost always is on these two bands. So the issues I'm having are just straight up with their backhaul, with their tower on T-Mobile's end. It's not on my end. And again, it's not the perfect signal, but that's still more than enough to get, 5G speed. I think a lot of people that are new to the service, I've seen comments like, well, make sure it's at the window. Well, that doesn't necessarily work. One spot I had it at the window didn't do as good as it does on a shelf. I don't know, it's probably 4 or 5 feet from the window. And it gets just as good of a signal there as it does in the window. And on top of that, as I've liked to stress so many times, and it was an old video, so I know people now aren't going to really look back to that, but they'll say maybe you need antenna extender, which again, I understand that, but T-Mobile doesn't sell the product as that. They basically don't even want you doing anything. They want you to plug it in and use it. They don't even give you settings. So I shouldn't have to do that. Their offering should include a gateway, a device that actually works to begin with. But more specifically, I don't need to do that. 4 out of 5 bars should give you pretty much the exact same experience. Now, ideally, you want 5 bars, but when you're getting 4 out of 5, you're still going to get pretty much the full capability of that tower. And again, to expound on that, when I got this, I got a battery bank, plugged it in, and took it to the tower. So I was in a 5 bar area, and I drove around for a mile or so, because there are a couple miles in this area. There's a couple other towers, because I wanted to see what the best signal was and what the best speeds were. One tower a little further downtown that I don't get at home, the uploads would be like maybe 50 megabits, and then the downloads would be maybe 30, 40. They weren't as good. Then the tower I would get would be anywhere from 60 to 100 download, but then the upload would only be maybe 25. So that's the tower that I am always connected to. But driving to those towers and making sure I was getting the full signal, the metrics weren't any better there, speed-wise, that they are here. So that's all I'm really going to say about that. It's not on my end. I'm not doing anything wrong that's hampering or capability of my service. So I think the first thing I'll do is just go ahead and run a speed test. This was one I just did a few minutes ago, so hopefully we get something around. Again, this is about 1:30 in the afternoon. This is about a fourth quarter of what I used to get. I used to get around 80 to 100 megabits download, and this is slight deprioritization. If I tried this same test after 8 p.m., I'd probably be getting 5 megabits down to even 1 megabit. I've done speed tests. You've seen the videos. If you're into this, you've probably seen them pop up. And again, check the playlist if you're interested. Sometimes their speeds are awful. I'll go ahead and do the upload too. The ping's not awful, but it's not that good either. Now, the upload's always consistently good. I can upload a video nice and quick. Just while I'm talking, let me do another one. These aren't anywhere near 5G speeds. They're pretty anemic. Right now, getting a little better, but again, if it was like this day in and day out all day, I wouldn't complain that much because that would work. But when people come home from work or school or whatever and they go down even more, it just gets to where it's unusable. And again, that's one thing I'll just say one more time. It's not the bars. It's not like I'm not getting a good signal from them. It's just their tower itself isn't that good. And I think a lot of that's simply because of the amount of users now in the past year that have joined T-Mobile. It seems to have kind of put the slowdown on you because as the home internet user, you're on the bottom of their totem pole. You get the worst experience out of all of T-Mobile's offerings. So again, really nice of them to treat their customers like that. And then I'll just go ahead and run one on here. Now, a lot of times people complain of what server it picks. I just let it pick the server that it auto selects. You can pick your own. A lot of times they say don't pick a competitor. I mean, I get that, but at the same time, usually the better the service is, it'll pick the closer server, or the network is it'll pick the closer server, and it'll pick like the T-Mobile one. But when it starts to get real laggy, then it'll do worse. But I think you can see how it just likes to act up. It's just that aggressive deprioritization where it'll just knock you down. And now for this part of the video, I'm just going to talk about the gateway. This is the Arcadyan one. This is the same one that I had since the beginning, so I've never really had any serious issues with it, which is great. Now, there's a good chance that you're picking up the sound of the fan I added on. I've done a video on that. I got it from Etsy, so you can check that video for the link and how it works. It's pretty basic. It's like, I think it was around $30. Hopefully, the way things are going, hopefully it didn't go up too much in price, if at all. I'll probably disconnect it just in case it gives interference on the mic or something. I know before in some videos it did that for some reason, and it's probably annoying to hear. But I will say I really don't think it's necessary. I'm not like the crazy user. I'm not downloading torrents or uploading like 50 gigabyte, hour-long 4K videos and stuff. So I don't know if I'm ever really truly pushing it crazy. But the fact that I have, I don't know, 10, 15 devices connected and using it throughout the day, and then some days, if I'm home all day or just not doing anything, I might be on it all day. I don't notice it overheating. It's cool to the touch with this fan on. When you take the fan off, it gets warm. It's not ever hot. It's not even like very warm. It's just warm to the touch. With this, it's always cool to the touch. Now, again, if you're into computers or whatever, and you think, well, yeah, I like the idea of the machine staying cool, you can go ahead and get the fan. But if you're on the fence or something, you don't think that you need to have it. Now with the Nokia gateway, which is that round silver trash can looking one, that one, I think that one was known more to reset or, bog down if it got hot. So you'd have to do your research on that one. But I think this is kind of the gateway that they're giving everyone. And there might be another one, I think, that kind of looks like this. It's a very similar body, but it's not an Arcadyan. Don't know too much about that one. Haven't done as much, seeing what other people have these days because I have the service myself. But you just, I'd kind of tuck the cables away. You just run it off the additional Type-C port they give, and that runs the fan. And then I did add like this, I don't know, it's probably 1.5 feet or so Type-C extension cord just because it was the one they gave. I'm still using that supply and everything, but just to give it a little bit more length. And you can see though it does kind of get dusty, so you have to kind of remember to clean it. Let me go ahead and disconnect it. And it just slides right on and off. Now, I must have cleaned it a few months ago. I mean, it's not exactly clean now, but it's not awful. Last time, I probably went 6 months without doing it, and it was really caked on. So then I get compressed air and blow this out, too, because you definitely don't want to have this collecting dust on the inside. And again, you can see that. I mean, that's not awful, but that's definitely something that you just want to remember to clean it from time to time if you're going to use that fan. And then you do get, 2 Ethernet outs, and then Type-C for both of these. But there's really not much going on here. That's kind of a bug. I don't know why sometimes it'll say there's no signal. You can see I'm even down here on the desk. I mean, I'm even closer to the window now, but I'm still getting 4 bars. So placement, though it can be for some people, really precise. For me, I'm not having too much issue because I'm not that far from the tower to begin with. I'm maybe a mile and a half from it. So right now I have 7 devices connected, but my TV's off. I don't have any game consoles on. A few other things might not be connected right now, like Apple TV's asleep, it might not be connected, but. And then you do get your messages on here, but they're really painful to try and look at that. But you can see here, it's $50 a month. It's always been $50. I've never had any issue, so they deliver there. They say it's, price lock or for a while. Who knows how long is that? 2 years, 5 years, 10 years? With inflation, I wouldn't be surprised if at some point they have to raise it. But for right now, I can't complain. Now, some people have told, not too many, but some people have said, well, my bill is 53 or something. Maybe other states, I'm in Pennsylvania, maybe other states they charge an additional tax or fee, even though that's all supposed to be included. Or if you're using some payment method that they charge a fee for you. I don't know. Well, I have auto pay too. Just keep that in mind. You do have to use auto pay. I think that's $5 there, which makes it 50 a month. And then there's also, I think, light home internet. I don't know much about it. It came out after I bought this. I wouldn't suggest that at all. Now, if you're in a dial-up only or a satellite only area, and those services are really bad, then maybe the light, but I think it's capped and it costs more for like a lesser service. So unless again you're in dire straits, I would avoid the T-Mobile Light. But that one, if you see ones that are people saying their bill is 60 a month, I think that's what that is. And just as another little tidbit, if you qualify for the ACP benefit, you can't apply that to T-Mobile. Now I know you can if Metro, but and Metro offers this gateway. With it's like prepaid, so I guess you pay a month in advance. I don't think it'll work with the home internet though. I could be wrong. I don't need Metro or anything, so I don't know. But I at least know if T-Mobile you can't use that ACP benefit if you have it. So again, people ask about the devices. Right now I have 7, but it's usually I think 10, 11, 12, and then if I have both my consoles on, like downloading updates or something, it could be 14 or 15. So not crazy, especially for a modern gateway of AX in it and stuff. It works fine. I don't notice too many issues there. And so you can see again with like some of my issues I have. I also tested this out on Windows. I've used my iPad, iPhone. The iPhone's 13 Pro Max, so it's pretty new. I mean, it can handle all the newest stuff. The consoles, Series X, PS5, TV's pretty new. The MacBook's like the one from last year. So all this stuff, at least as of last year, was like completely up to date. Now it's 1 year out, but so it really shouldn't be too much on my end that's causing any hindrances. Now I can say with using the gateway and all the devices connected, yeah, I've never had serious issues with it. Every now and then, and it's a handful of times, and I've said it before, sometimes it just won't be responsive. I'll be using MacBook or iPhone, one of them, and nothing will load, but it won't say disconnected from the internet because it's still connected to the gateway. The Wi-Fi signal's still showable, but you'll go to the other device and it still won't work. So then I'm like, well, the only way I've disconnecting and reconnecting didn't work. So you unplug it, or it's not responsive. So I don't think going on the app will reset it over the air. You have to physically pull the switch on it and then turn it back on, and then it works again properly. I've done that a few times, probably under 10 since I've had it. Some people say that you should just frequently reset it anyway. And again, all that stuff is good to know. All that stuff is important. But my focus, again, especially for all the questions and people that probably aren't tech savvy, this service shouldn't be like, it should just work. You shouldn't have to do all of these custom things and add stuff on it. It should just work out of the box. They act like 5G is the greatest thing ever and it's the future, and maybe it is, but there's a lot of issues that still need ironed out. But I can also say, though, in terms of reliability, that deprioritization is just awful. It just screws you every night. But I've never had any outages, so to T-Mobile's credit, and for some reason where I'm at, we really don't even get power outages. It might flicker, it might go off for a second. We even just had, I don't know how much of the country had like really bad windstorms, and no outages at all. never had an outage with T-Mobile. I've never had it to where no service because my cell phone also uses a T-Mobile tower. It's Mint Mobile, but it's using T-Mobile. I've never had any outages at all, so that is really good on them. It's just I don't know what it is, but backhaul or something. Just the speeds, the experience is kind of bad, but at least it's a quality product. Now, my previous ISP, Verizon DSL, kudos to them. They pretty much never had outages either. To where I know a lot of people that have cable internet, it can be out for days if there's power outages or lines down. So and that's probably just very specific to your location, because I know a lot of people around here do have outages, and that's one advantage though, at least for me. I've never had outages. And again, you can see a lot of people ask about the test drive, was what they're calling it. It's just the trial. You're supposed to have 15 days. That's what I really suggest, even though my experience kind of makes me mad. It kind of puts a bad taste in my mouth. I know a lot of people also have excellent service through this service. So I would recommend, if you're interested and it's available in your area, to at least try it out. I've heard a few people say, they returned it within 15 days and they still got charged for the whole month. Now, did they do something wrong? I don't know. I can't speak for them. But I just noticed that there were some things I've seen where they say that they keep getting charged or they wouldn't cancel it. That's why just make sure you pay with a credit card if you have one. Then, especially if it's a reputable company, they should be able to stop the payment or do a chargeback if they screw you. So I would really, they'd really leave you alone after that, I would think. But and then you get these yearly benefits. Some people say it's actually $30 a month, only if you're paying for their overpriced Magenta Max. If you have Magenta Max, you'll actually get undeprioritized data, but you won't get it on your home internet, so it's still kind of pointless. You have unlimited, I think it's even unlimited hotspot, and this is in a way a kind of a glorified hotspot, so why not just use, if you're going to pay more for the Magenta Max phone plan, why even bother getting the home internet? There is Philo. I'm still on the YouTube TV. $10 off. I'm still within my first year on that. And Uma, I think it's a good service, but it doesn't work with my T-Mobile. There's just too much latency. Maybe right now you saw my speeds. It might work now, but I need something that's going to work all day. Like a lot of times I'll make calls at night, and it's just unhearable. It's just there's too much delay and packet loss or something where it's just awful. And then I think this year too, I think they give you MLB TV for free. I think I saw something about MLS. You get free coverage there. You get T-Mobile Tuesdays with the app. So I mean, there are benefits. And when you're paying, if you only have home internet for $50 a month, it's not awful. But there just are things you got to know. The pros and cons, and a lot of frequently asked questions here. I guess since I was kind of thinking about that UMA service, this service uses a dynamic IP. If you don't know what that means, you don't have like the same like your house address. It doesn't stay the same with this service. I think most of them do. Or you can use a VPN, but then that's adding another layer of complexity, potentially another layer of delay or latency as well. But for people that have door or ring door cams or alarms and security cameras and Nest stuff like that, I've never used any of that, but I believe most of that is accessible like through logging in via IP. There may be services, and I've said this before, that you just kind of log in to the cloud. So your device at home on this network goes to the cloud, and then you log into your cloud from your other device. That may work. But the ones that just basically go remotely into your network on here, they don't work, they don't connect. That's because of that dynamic IP. I guess it just changes around to where what it was when you set that up, now it's different. So your phone, it's just a mismatch. So there's a lot of people that'll message me about that. Keep that in mind. I would not recommend using that with this service. There again, if you want to study it or if you just know how to do that stuff, then you can, but if you don't, either don't get that stuff if you're going to use this, or if you can stick with your other ISP, because you will have a headache trying to make all that work. The same kind of goes for an external router. I've talked about it a lot before at length, so there's no bridge mode. You can add an external router. I did test that before with an older computer I had, it would view the AX or Wi-Fi 6 SSID, but it wouldn't connect to it. So I got one of my old routers, plugged it in through the back. The router worked just like it should. I didn't really notice a double NAT. I didn't notice any issues, but I think I had the external router in bridge mode, so that might have helped. But I saw no benefit. Now, since it was older technology, I think it was wireless N, I was able to get my laptop hooked up to update it and update the driver. But just all of that, it's kind of annoying that it's not a seamless thing. And I didn't see any benefit to adding another router. Now, if it offered bridge mode and you could get a really good router and put all the settings, the ideal, what other people talk about on forums and stuff, maybe, but you can't do that with this. And I'm not going to mess around with VPNs or anything to try and make something work out of it. And again, that's not really this kind of an all-in-one box. You should be able to just plug and play. So for those of you that are interested in external routers, you could do it, but it's not going to be ideal. And I would say that's pretty much the same sentiment when it comes to gaming. For me, it did work for gaming, but I'm not really in parties. I'm not trying to cast stuff or stream. The speeds usually are good enough for gaming, but it's the latency which can be bad. When I first started out, my latency was like 18 to 25 milliseconds. Now it's never pretty much ever under 50. Sometimes it might be 30 or 40. But then you got to add the latency of being through Xbox Live or PSN. So then in a game, I'm never really ever any lower than 80 milliseconds. But then you also have the moderate NAT type on Xbox. I think it's called Type 2 on PlayStation. A lot of people do have issues with gaming. I'm not playing that many games online anymore. I don't have time, and I kind of just miss the old single player games. But if you're hardcore into gaming, you're probably going to have issues with this. I don't think there's any fixing it. It's just the nature of their network. And the best speeds I had, a year ago when everything worked the best, I did show, which I'll include, videos of gaming working, and it does work, but it's not ideal. Again, if you're in parties, you might have issues connecting with your friends or setting up stuff. I know when I search for a match, it does take longer, I guess, one, due to the latency and due to the NAT type. So just to put it as simple as, it's not ideal, though it does work. And another aspect for complaint with me would be customer service. Again, I got this in March of 2022. I think it was around May. As I noticed my speeds deteriorating, I noticed the deprioritization was very aggressive and it was going to hit me hard every night and kind of bring me to a standstill on being able to do stuff online. I called. And I did get through pretty quick. It wasn't where I had to stay on the line. I think I got a call, but they give you your ticket or whatever, and then they call you back in like 20 minutes. So that wasn't a big deal. Now, Verizon, when I got rid of my DSL internet, I mean, they pretty much picked up right away. But Verizon's a more expensive service, so I kind of get they're going to cut some costs here. But this wasn't the person I talked to. They kind of did the most pointless rudimentary stuff. They can look at your gateway, they run Speedtest, then they tell you to reset it, which is kind of a waste because I have a custom SSID and just stuff connected to it. So they just reset it when I know that's not the issue. It's always frustrating why they do that. They did say that the speeds were, lower and stuff. This was a callback I got a few days later, and you can see that they were saying about that fabled tower upgrade. And a lot of people have talked about that, and that's quite an issue. It's been probably 10 months since this voicemail here, and I certainly haven't gotten a tower upgrade. Pretty much anyone that calls their customer service seems to end up being told they'll get a tower upgrade. In addition to that, I was told, not through that voicemail, but through that first call I made, they said that they valued my service, and I would be given prorated prices for any continued decrease in quality of service and stuff like that. I've never had an adjustment to my bill, and I don't want to call and go through all that crap again of resetting just to them maybe to say, yeah, we'll adjust it, and then they don't. So that's annoying for me, but then again, the tower upgrade, I don't know of anyone. I've known some people that have just seen on the internet that they said they got tower upgrades and it greatly helped their speeds. But anyone that's called and said, was told that their tower was getting upgraded and they would get better speeds. I've never heard anyone come back and say, well, they upgraded it and it's way better, they fixed it. I've never seen that. If they're lying or if they're just saying this, I just wonder if that could be a grounds for a class action lawsuit. Not that I would do it, I really don't care that much, but for someone that would have the time and the resources to want to investigate that, I find that to be interesting. Now, I wouldn't be surprised if, say, like their tower upgrades 5 years from now, then technically were they lying? If they say, well, you're going to get a tower upgrade, we don't know the ID or we don't know when the date is, but we think it's soon, and then soon turns into 5 years. With all the loopholes, I don't know how that would work. But nonetheless, I would just like someone to figure out online just for people to come together and say, yeah, they told me that too, and it never happened, and then has it actually happened to anyone and given them a better service? And then that's actually getting people that you can talk to in customer service. A lot of other people say that they get routed overseas or they don't understand or help them at all. I just think kind of in general, though, if any company, customer service is usually pretty useless, and it's certainly the case here. And I think one of the last things I'll talk about in terms of performance is just, I'm going to call it oddities. Things that happen that I don't know, maybe people that are familiar with networking, because that's something that I know the least about. Learned more in the last year or so, but still I don't know that much. Some oddities would be, I always have issues with Amazon. I do a lot of shopping on both Amazon and eBay. eBay, I think it is just a lighter website, but Amazon always seems to have a lot of issues with loading. And what I mean by that, say in the middle of the night or earlier, even around now, when I'm not getting deprioritized as bad and my speed's getting even over 20, that should load a web page like Amazon very quickly. I'll have issues with things loading. And again, I've tried different browsers. Right now I'm on Windows, but usually I'm on my MacBook. An issue I'll have is, which you can kind of see things here are a little slow. So say we're still getting that 20 to 30 megabits. When I had 7 megabit DSL, you would get some delay here, but these graphics would load in. The main issue I will have, though, and it probably won't do it now, but okay, it is. This takes forever to load. And now, say I could probably go on YouTube and bring up a 1440p video or a 1080-60p video, and it would just start playing. But then this takes for, and you can see now it is coming in. But this is so annoying when you want to shop on Amazon, and it's actually happening right now. So I want to look at the pictures, they're not loading. What I'll do is I'll then switch to my phone's hotspot, which is using Mint Mobile, which is T-Mobile MVNO, and I can refresh this and it'll actually work. So I don't understand why that is, why this probably the same tower. It's just, is it packet loss? Is it the gateway? What exactly causes that? Okay, so I've now connected to my iPhone, and just, I know it kind of adds to the bulk of the video, but look, it all loaded in way quicker. Now, look at that. This perfectly describes kind of what I was complaining about. Why is that? Look how quick these images loaded in. Now, someone will say I'm fooling around, lying, like, why would I do that? I want my service to work. Again, how can that be? Now, someone might say, well, you're on different towers. Maybe that's true, but then my question would be, how come my phone with a little tiny antenna in it is seemingly able to outperform the gateway with a bunch of giant antennas it's supposed to? Why is it selecting the better tower? And again, I've tried all of them. So that's very interesting to me. And because of that, I actually use my phone's hotspot a lot now. I've upgraded to the Mint Mobile $35, I think it's $30 unlimited plan, but they cap you at a 5 gigabyte hotspot. So that kind of sucks that as far as browsing and stuff, I don't use that much in a month, just, for when I'm getting slowed down or getting weird issues. But that's kind of one thing, if I want to put money into a better plan for my phone that has a bigger hotspot, then why use the home internet? One other thing I'll talk about is with the Apple App Store. A lot of times I'll go to update an app, and maybe it's Instagram, maybe it's YouTube. those apps, the update files, what, maybe 20, 40, 100 megabytes at biggest? Sometimes they'll just sit there. It'll be 20 minutes sometimes until they'll update. I'll put the phone down and pick it up 5 minutes later, and maybe it'll be updated. Sometimes it'll still be like a quarter of the way. It's not that my speeds are that slow, it's just, is it packet loss? Is it something with just the gateway can't quality of service manage the bandwidth? But I could not be doing things. But at the same time, I could maybe, again, watch a 1080p video on YouTube, no buffering. But meanwhile, my iPhone can't download an update quickly. Or it could be the opposite where nothing else is going on, but my iPhone still, I just don't understand these issues. Those are the annoyances and the oddities that I've experienced. But if you know your way around the networking and there is a technical reason for that, I really would like to know. So to kind of wrap things up, I'm just going to talk about overall impressions. Uh, in my best Bret Hart voice, I'm going to have to give it a 2 out of 10. And I know that's going to make some people mad. If it works for you, then that's great. But for me, it's a 2 out of 10. There's just no other way I can say it. The best way I can put it, say you go buy a new car, and it's an affordable car, it's not an expensive car. So you're not going to get as good, I understand that. But every night at 7 p.m. to midnight, your car can only go 15 miles an hour. It's rated, for some reason, it can only go 80, we'll say. So in the daytime, it'll go maybe 80, maybe 70, but it'll get you where you need to. But at night, you can only go 15 miles an hour. Well, you wouldn't buy that car at all. So that's the exact same thing I'm going to say here. Technically, this is a business for me. So, I don't like not having a good ISP like this. I mean, they're great for uploading, because even during that, the upload's still good. So that's why I've been hanging on to them. But I can't see myself keeping this for another year, especially with that lie about the tower upgrade. Even if it would have taken 6 months, or if they got back to me and said, well, due to the economy or something, we can't do this right now, but we'll give you a discounted price, or we'll give you specifically a big discount on Magenta Max, so you can use that when your phone's slow or when your internet's slowing down. But they're kind of doing the opposite. They want you to pay the big money for Magenta Max, and then you'll get this a little cheaper. Well, I wouldn't even get it then, the gateway. So I think this time next year, maybe I'll be crazy and decide to get another ISP and keep this just for the heck of it, to make videos and hopefully make a little bit of money off of T-Mobile. What can I say? But I can't keep this as a daily driver for another year if this isn't going to improve. It's pretty unacceptable. And I did want to try Verizon's home internet. When I first got this, Verizon at that moment wasn't available. Then maybe a month later, it was. And I said, well, why would I pay for two at the same time? But a few months later, when I started noticing the issues with this, I decided, well, let me go back and get the Verizon one anyway. I'll get them both and pick which one's better and make some videos in the meantime. It's back to saying it's not available. My guess is, since they're probably all in the same tower, maybe they all have issues with backhaul in my area. So Verizon pulled back out and said, well, they know that things aren't that great to support that yet, so we're not even going to do it and make ourselves offer a bad service like T-Mobile has gone ahead and done. I know Verizon's using a C-band, so I think that one, though they don't have the coverage that T-Mobile does, I think they're trying to do theirs right, even though it's rolling out slower. But I'm not all that in the know, so I'm not sure. But if you can get Verizon home internet, or some areas maybe AT&T offers it, give those a consideration as well. And I guess the last thing I can say is, not too many people watch my videos about, issues with T-Mobile. So hopefully that means not too many of the T-Mobile users out there are having problems. That would be the best case. But nonetheless, there is definitely a sizable chunk, though, that are having issues. I did receive a survey through a third party a month or two ago. It was pretty rough. I just gave them a bunch of bad scores. Price and stuff, again, are excellent scores. But the constant slowdown, the fact that they don't really help you on customer service, and they don't seem to be improving anything. I mentioned all of that. And then I got one maybe a week or two ago directly from T-Mobile. And again, I mentioned all that stuff. So I can only hope that, though it was ridiculously slow to get those surveys sent out, I've had it almost a year at that point. At least finally, they're getting some feedback. So at least for me, they should know that I'm not happy. and other people need to, again, do the same. Hopefully they're getting those surveys. Let them know. Maybe they'll, again, even if they can't afford it or whatever, I would just like to know. It's like, well, we know this is a major issue, and we're going to try and improve it as quick as we can, compared to a lot of times when you go on these Q&As, they just say, well, you have to know our network suffers from deprioritization, and that's to be expected, and it's not ideal for gaming. And it's like, well, rather than be proud of these things and sell them as quirks of your network, why not try and improve them? So I know that was just a ton of bitching and moaning, but to wrap it up, for $50, if it works, it's a great deal. Again, there always are going to be issues with gaming and the remote access just because of the nature of the network, the CG NAT, the lack of bridge mode. The gateway's pretty good for what it is. Again, the fact that I haven't had to return it, that I haven't had any issues, and one only issue I can say I did have, which I just thought of, with that fan on it, one really cold day, the signal was viewable, but it wasn't working. And I looked at this, and there was an error message that said the gateway was too cold. So I unplugged the fan and just kind of let it warm up, turn my heat up in the room for a while. But that was interesting. I only had that issue one time, and the fact that it was too cold and not overheating was kind of funny. I wouldn't fault that. Again, I'm running that on there, so that's the risk I take. But beyond that, there were no issues with that. And again, the service itself, the fact that I didn't have any outages, it's just that deprioritization. It's the fact that, where I live, there must be more people signing up, and their network can't handle it. So that's where they got to figure out something. Either got to cut the users, not let any more get on here, or upgrade it so we can handle everyone. So hopefully they're in the process of that. Continue to do updates. Again, it's an as is for each person. It might be great for you, and if it is, then that is great. Let people know. But if it's bad, like it is for me, I'm letting you know that just there's issues, and I'd like to see them fixed. But let me know about your experience. Is it good? Is it bad? And most importantly, have you ever gotten an upgraded T-Mobile tower? I'd love to know. So hopefully you found it helpful. And if there's anything you want to ask, I'll do my best to get back to you. So thanks for watching, and you'll see me in the next one, assuming I can upload and not have any issues. Have a good one.